Did you know that Leonie and Linhardt are some of the only characters in the game to share a Paralog but not have any supports? I mean, these characters just randomly decided to go on an adventure at the tip of a hat, which is amazing because this is one of my favorite missions in the entire game. Not only is it a challenge on higher difficulties, but it adds a lot to this game's lore. However, something began to bother me about Linhardt's behavior and the suspicious stuff he seems to be doing behind the scenes. So I replayed the story again, and the evidence started to paint a very clear picture. For those of you who aren't familiar, Linhardt's main character traits are his fascination with crest research and napping. Linhardt can be recruited into any house, and his Paralog unlocks during the war phase. At the start of his Paralog, Leonie explains that she is in debt and often can't buy new weapons and gear. Then Linhardt remembers a rumor where she can get a holy weapon for free. When they arrive at Lake Tutates, they have to fight the Immovable. After the battle, Leonie gives the Inexhaustible to the professor and leaves. Linhardt explains that Leonie had fought a saint just so that she could have that weapon. And it's this text that I latched onto. I never really understood Linhardt's motivation for this Paralog. Leonie's motivation is clear because she was in it for the weapon. So I asked myself, what is Linhardt's motivation for this Paralog? It's true that he says he wants to test the bow's connection to crests, but is that really the case? Let's analyze this picture one more time. This circle is definitely Leonie's motivation. There's not much dialogue to look into, so I think this is Linhardt's true motivation. After all, Linhardt knew all along that the Immovable was Saint in deck and was very pushy that Leonie be quiet while he negotiated. Could he have wanted to kill Saint in deck from the very beginning? He did, but not at the beginning of the game. Linhardt became a traitor just after the time skip. You see, Three Houses is divided between two acts. Part 1 is the Academy phase, and Part 2 is the War phase. After the Academy phase, the time skip occurs, and Linhardt returns to the Etruscan Empire. When Byleth wakes up, Linhardt goes to Garrigmach Monastery. Leonie and Linhardt's Paralog will unlock all routes after Chapter 15. In non-Edelgard routes, he mentions that he is betraying Edelgard and joins everyone else. This is where Linhardt starts being suspicious. During this month, Linhardt will say that nobody seems to trust him because he is from the Empire. This conversation makes it clear that not everyone trusts Linhardt or the Black Eagles, even though they joined the Resistance. However, Linhardt doesn't say that their logic is unfounded. Linhardt figured out Saint Index's secret identity and tried to get on Byleth's good side. He could be a secret traitor like Monica was in Part 1. So what could possibly make Linhardt want to kill Saint Indec? He doesn't. Edelgard does. We know that Edelgard dislikes the Church of Saros, causing her to declare war on them. Edelgard becomes emperor and then wants to overthrow the church. At the end of Crimson Flower, Byleth and Edelgard end up killing Rhea. During the time skip, Linhardt is in the Etruscan Empire. In non-Crimson Flower routes, Edelgard and Hubert turn Linhardt into a spy and send him to Garrigmach Monastery. She tells him that the Immovable is Saint in deck and that he must be defeated. Edelgard's plan is to kill the four saints and Rhea. The four saints are Saint Macuel, Saint Keyhole, Saint Sepline, and Saint Indec. Rhea is Saint Saros, but she isn't one of the four saints. Way to make things complicated. In Crimson Flower, you have the option to kill Seteth and Flame, and then you defeat Rhea in the last level. With Linhardt's help, Edelgard successfully kills 4 out of 5 of the saints. In the other routes, Edelgard dies, but Saint Indec and maybe Saint Macuel are also dead. It's not that hard to believe that Edelgard and Hubert convinced Linhardt to be a spy for the Empire and find Saint Indec. Linhardt's big opportunity arises when he finds Leonie. He learns of her struggle with money and tells her that they should all go to Lake Tutates. He doesn't tell her about the Immovable secret, and Leonie isn't able to understand what's happening. She even calls the Immovable a guard dog and doesn't understand the trial. Linhardt intentionally left Leonie in the dark so he could use her as a scapegoat. Recall how he says she went through the trouble of fighting a saint, not we. Even when Linhardt works hard, he'll push the credit onto someone else. Linhardt's work ethic and laziness makes him the perfect person to infiltrate Byleth's army. So that's the truth of it? Linhardt is a traitor that joins Byleth's army to help Edelgard kill the four saints, starting with the Immovable? He acts weird during the fight and has more knowledge than he lets on. So why is there so much left in the video? Well, I had such a fun time coming up with this theory, but then I found this earth-shattering piece of information. This is from the Fire Emblem wiki, and it says, if the Crimson Flower route is chosen, Linhardt advises Byleth to not tell Edelgard or Hubert about the mission, as the legend is from the Church of Saros. It seems like Linhardt doesn't want to help Edelgard kill the saints. Plus, if Sedith and Flayn are dead, this Paralog becomes unavailable. Linhardt doesn't tell Edelgard about Saint and Deck because he knows she will kill him without a second thought. So, with my hopes destroyed, I'm back at square one. What is Linhardt's motivation for this Paralog? All that's left is the possibility that Linhardt really did want to research the sacred bow. There's one aspect of Linhardt's character that I haven't mentioned yet: his fear of blood. Linhardt couldn't become a secret assassin like Monica because he's afraid of blood. Let's face it, Linhardt is a researcher, not a fighter. Linhardt is probably being honest about wanting to research the connections between the bow and Cress. Everything I said about him secretly working with Edelgard behind the scenes was me over-analyzing things where there wasn't anything. And I'm uploading this knowing that the title is not true. I thought some of you may have enjoyed this crazy story about one of Three Houses' lesser talked about characters. Linhardt definitely isn't a traitor in the game, but he does love his friends, and I do love every one of you guys who watched this whole video. Thank you so much for watching, and if you like this more analytical kind of video, then hit the like button down below. This video took such a long time to make, so your support is always appreciated. Before I go, tell me in the comments below what you thought about my theory and who your favorite character in Three Houses is. Alright, goodbye. See you next time.
Life beyond the shore, just out of reach. Yet the waters ever change.